Hi, I'm Garnbreak1, and this is Midgardia RPG's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with James Armstrong from GeneFunk 2090. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How about you?
I'm pretty well. So why don't you tell me about GeneFunk?
Genefunk 2090 is a biopunk cyberpunk game set in the year 2090, where the players take on the role of mercenaries working for a small elite mercenary company called a cadre. And it's part of probably a familiar ecosystem to people who play Shadowrun or Cyberpunk 2020, where there's very powerful mega corporations. With one of the big twists being this game leans heavily into the biopunk elements. So lots of genetically engineered human genomes, lots of transgenic beasts, and things like that.
Cool. So first off, why don't you tell me a little bit about the tone of the setting? Is it like a very grim and gritty serious? Is it a little bit more lighthearted?
It has elements of the cyberpunk, like the film noir thing is still present, the dystopian thing is still present. But one thing I wanted to have a little bit different is make it a little less explicitly dystopian. So I wanted to have a lot of double-edged swords. So even though traditional cyberpunk is portrayed as this gritty, dark world, it's also kind of a Robin Hood type trope going on there, where you play a band of plucky, you know, Shadowrunners or cyberpunks who are ultimately against kind of an objectively evil force. The corporations are objectively evil. So I wanted to have a little bit more of an overlap between a little bit more of a gray area between the mercenary aspect of the players and then the corporate evils as well. So the players themselves are part of a small scale mercenary company right off the bat for most campaigns. There's options to not do that, but I included that as a way to generate a good amount of story and conflict right off the bat to get rid of the suspension of disbelief, the classic meet in a tavern type trope. The players start off already meeting up as willing to do violence, investigation, and intelligence for contracts for cash. So right off the bat, it's not necessarily the Robin Hood type scenario where it's plucky young mercenaries against the big evil corporations. They might be working for the corporations, and
Yeah,
the contracts they choose is up to them. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I was flipping through the preview book that you gave me, and it mentions that you have basically Tinder for like murder.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Tinder for corporate espionage. Yeah.
yes, something about the idea of swiping right on mercenaries or swiping left on mercenaries just really appealed to me. I played the Jagged Alliance games back in the day, so I kind of wanted to have a similar element to Jagged Alliance type feel, along with the Tinder app type feel. So yeah, we need an explosives guy. Like, oh, we'll swipe right on that guy. He knows a little bit about that. So, and that's also often how players organically will create their characters, right? They'll have like, do we got a cleric? Do we have a healer? How about is our rogue skills covered? Okay, we'll swipe right on this guy. So it creates. I do love the coming up with a background story for session 0 where it's a prison break or you meet in a tavern. That's cool too, but for some people who might not necessarily want to have this why are we all together and hanging out and doing these things together, it just provides a built-in a priori method for people to like, yeah, okay, we're working together because we all swipe right in each other, we have valuable skill sets.
Yeah, and if you have a group where not everybody can make it all the time and you keep all of your sessions pretty episodic, then that works handily to explain, why somebody's missing from this operation. Just like, didn't need them, didn't message them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was also thinking because I wanted to have a little bit higher mortality rates to capture that more. I wanted to have violence be very present in this game, so I tried to include as many things in the setting to explain increased violence as much as possible. So it's the most violent time, not including wartime, because of course in wartime, like the casualty rates of death go through the roof. But that's another one of those double-edged swords where there's no war anymore. There's no war that happens between nations because of the Aegis satellite system that everyone signed up for. So state-on-state violence doesn't happen. So less people are dying overall, but way more civilian people are dying. Way more crime people, way more small-scale localized violence.
Right. And, weird militias and probably
Mm,
extremist groups here and there. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I wanted to make, like the violence permeate throughout all society and less state-on-state warfare. But yeah. less tanks and jets, more power armors and groups of cloaked people running around in the shadows.
Yeah, and bringing up the question of like, is that really better?
Yeah, exactly. That's dystopia or utopia. Less people are dying, but it's kind of violence is everywhere,
Yeah,
and no one's starving to death, but the wealth inequality is higher than ever. Things like that.
cool. Yeah, so I'm flipping through the table of contents. Looks like you've got a big old list of genetically engineered
Yeah.
genomes. Why don't you tell me about one or two of those?
The one that first came to me when I first thought of this, I started working on this game back in 2001, which is the reason why I can get it done without a team of people is it's taken 18 years to do this. So I've just been plugging away as a hobby. But the first genome that I thought of was I want to center every genome around a specific purpose, so a function. So think of the job first and the genome second rather than the other way around. So I just started thinking of different professions that could exist. And I think one of the first professions was manual labor. So basically a biological robot that has consciousness like a human being, but bred for a particular purpose. In this case, blue collar labor, specifically mining. So the canary genome is manufactured by Hexi, the Chinese mega corporation that also joined with Japan and Korea. And they're bioluminescent, they glow in the dark, so that's helpful in a dark mine.
Yeah.
They have enormous livers that can metabolize toxins really well because of poison gas leaks. And that's how I came up with the name canary, was the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
But instead of being the sensitive thing, they're the toughest thing you can imagine. They're like the uber tank genome. And so they could definitely be the meat shield or the tank of the group. But it's also cool to take one of those guys and just flip it on its head for a character concept, make him a hacker or something. That's the canary genome. Is super strong, very tough, genetically engineered miners. They glow in the dark. Yeah, that's one of the, and they really pop. I love the art that I have for those guys.
Yeah, your art is the art for this is really good.
Yeah, there's some of the artists that I found, like William Liberto. He's just a beast. Like he's an excellent artist, and I feel like in the future he does his own comics as well. He's from Brazil, and yeah, he's awesome. If anyone needs any artwork done, go to him because he's great. Another one is Dean Spencer, who has a Patreon page, and he's another very good at compositions, excellent artist.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at the cover page again. There's some really good outfits there. And
Yeah,
there's certainly enough stuff that if I saw this on a shelf, I'd be like, ooh. Especially
yeah,
if it was
the glowing.
Yeah,
there are a lot of colors for sure. Yeah.
Especially if it was in the 5e section. It's like, is this supposed to be here?
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people aren't sure about. But in the playtest, it's actually worked out pretty seamlessly. I've had this game in 4th edition and 3rd edition as well. 4th edition, it didn't work well at all. Like I did the mechanics for it, but during playtesting, it just didn't work. But 5th edition, it seems to lend itself quite well to all the mechanics that I have. It fits. It's a good fit, surprisingly.
Yeah, we've played a lot of unusual, out of genre stuff. I think we've done a couple of sci-fi ones, some science fantasy, Wild West one time.
Nice.
It's very adaptable. Yeah.
And then, of course, another one of the natural genomes that anyone would imagine is genetically engineered soldier. That's like a trope that's been around forever, but I love it. And it's one that is likely to be, in my opinion, likely to actually emerge, is the genetically engineered soldier. So that's the Spartan genome. And I got those split up into 3 different types, just like the military is split up into different groups, like the Navy, the Marines, Air Force, etc. I got the Spartan infantry, the Spartan Naiad, which is Marines, Navy. They're aquatic. They can breathe underwater. They can swim really well. And then the Spartan Wraith are like the sneaky scout types with hyper olfaction, so they can track like a bloodhound.
That's pretty.
And they're good for creepy antagonists too.
Yeah. No Spartan pilot.
Yeah, well, I got to save some space because page count can get pretty crazy, but I have lots of stuff for future books and supplements, or just PDF onlys.
I like the mutts too. Tell me about the mutts.
Yeah, those during character creation I found during playtesting, that is the funnest one to actually roll up because who doesn't love rolling dice? There's some elements of a gambler in every single D&D player, I think. And even though it can grossly unbalance campaigns, even if you just do the 4 dice 6, get rid of the 1, I wanted to keep that in there just because it's so fun to roll dice for character creation. And Mutts is the same thing. So with the Mutts, they roll on a table of I think it's around 50 different genetic enhancements.
Somewhere
and you get
there.
to pick how many you want before you start rolling, and then you have a certain amount of genetic flaws which you don't have any control over afterward, or the enhancements. So it's kind of like a mixed bag. You don't know the kind of race, the genome you're going to get when you're creating, so it's kind of a surprise, and then you can use that to inform the kind of class you're going to pick. So yeah, they are the Mutts are the offspring of a transgenic engineered genome and either an unmodified human or another transgenic engineered genome. So where all the engineered genomes are for one specific job, the Mutts are, who knows what's going to happen. They're a mixed bag. So you might have a genetically engineered soldier falls in love with a genetically engineered actor. So it's like, who knows what's going to come from that? They might have pheromones, they might have super reflexes. Yeah, they're going to have the genetic interactions between those two genomes. No one anticipated for what that might be. So because of that, just like in the real world, society doesn't know how to categorize people unless you can put them into discrete boxes. So even though the genetically engineered that are transgenic are freaky and weird looking, people can accept them because they fit into a job. Like, oh, that's a genetically engineered miner. Okay, they're going to be doing blue collar work. It's a little weird to see them, doing something else, but I know what they're all about. With the Mutts, they have no predetermined role in society. They look weird. So there's lots of ways to include, allegories towards racism and things like that. And kind of the X-Men type phenomena where they're powerful, strange, and you don't know where to put them in your worldview. So I want to include definitely strong racial allegories with that one. But it could be anyone who feels basically out of place and you don't know what role to ascribe them when you first look at them.
Yeah, and it mentions that they tend to fall into gangs and stuff like that. And man, facing a gang of Mutts sounds terrifying.
It does, and they're all young, which is scary too. But because there's only 1 or 2 generations of them. Because
the oldest are about 50. The book says.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, those ones are going to be the freaky ones, man. You see a gang of Mutts, and you know what to expect. You see one led by a 40-year-old Mutt, and you're like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they are the most oppressed group out of all the genomes by far, because they're not only they get it from. There are certain groups out there where the made in God's image thing can come up, and there's lots of fundamentalist groups that right off the bat being transgenic is like, no, you're not human. And then Mutts add another layer on top of that of not even having a purpose, not having a job. So they're the lowest on the social totem pole by far.
The kind of
cool.
Yeah, the kind of people who point at a Mutt and go, "You dare call that thing human?"
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to have definitely some elements of that, allegories of that, and it's not lost to me that that transgenic even has trans in front of it. So there's going to be people making that connection as well as an outlier group, and the numbers even I have is pretty similar to the proportion of the population is similar to that.
I hadn't caught that. That's a good point.
Yeah, that was actually coincidental. It's just like, but I bet those connections will be made. Yeah.
I really like the transhumanist focus of this game as well.
I love that stuff personally in my real life too. Like I'm a big fan of. I'm not as drinking the Kool-Aid like Kurzweil. I don't know if you know of Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah.
He's very persuasive and total rock star. It's hard to not take him seriously when he's had a decent track record of predictions, and his inventions are incredible. But yeah, I love the idea, but I think his timeline is optimistic. So I fast forwarded it by about 50, 60 years. And even then I have a kind of an optimistic timeline myself.
Yeah. Full human immortality is going to be a good while away. And also the singularity as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. The singularities, full human immortality, I actually think is a lot closer. I'm a molecular biologist, or like my master's degree was in that. I think there's no mechanical reason why that's impossible. That is very achievable, I think, in the next 30, 40 years. But the uploading your mind, that's just a big riddle. We don't even know what a mind is, or even if we can. Yeah, the riddle of consciousness is a philosophical problem, which is
Yeah,
hard to say, which I kind of like.
yeah, we can't really separate the to use the obtuse but obvious metaphor. We can't really separate the hardware from the software at this point.
That's exactly right. And I wanted to include that with the psychominds. With that's a main part of the world where it is the trade secret on the planet right now. So these 9 megacorporations are all at each other's throats in small scale warfare. And one of them happens to have the exclusive patent on uploading minds to a digital medium. And they're called psychominds, these uploaded minds. Legally, they're identical to every other person. But of course, many people think of them as not human whatsoever. They self-report. They pass the Turing test. They self-report as being human. They self-report as being the same person as they were before uploading. But there is that philosophical problem. Have you heard of philosophical zombies?
Yes, good old P zombies. Yeah,
So they could just be the same input-output box, but ultimately the question is unresolvable whether or not they're having a conscious experience. So I've left that agnostic in the game, but either way they act and react as though they are the same person,
and
and
if
legally they're treated as the same person.
yeah, and if for all intents and purposes they react exactly as a conscious person would, what is the real difference there?
Yeah, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Beyond
Yeah,
some
there's the yeah
beyond some notion
like
of the soul, the divine spark, or whatever,
mhm.
which I'm sure there are strong feelings about in setting from certain people.
Oh yeah, so there are terrorist groups that bomb the it's called Phoenix Unlimited, the subsidiary that actually produces these psychomines, and there's terrorist attacks against them all the time because not only the people that want to hold on to a strong core of human nature, of human identity as a biological entity, their nerves are already frayed by all these transgenic people around, and it's
Yeah,
freaking them out. So the idea of actually taking it a step further and having a digital mind being treated as a human being can make some people just explode. Like they will. There's lots of terrorist groups I have built in there that try to kill these people.
yeah. You mentioned that they're called Phoenix, which is an interesting name considering that portfolio. Do they also do like we mentioned transhumanism? And Kurzweil and stuff. I'm sure you've heard of the
Yeah.
whole like cryogenic life insurance kind of thing that
Oh yeah, for
some of that
sure.
group does. Did they have a thing
Yeah.
like that? Like you sign up for them, you get a little wristband that says, "In case of severe injury, throw me in a vat and ship me to these guys."
That's a good idea. I haven't included too much cryonics in there right now because
Well,
I'm not sure if they've solved the problem of cellular explosion upon thawing.
yeah,
but
that's bad. But like not even cryonics
but with
specifically, just
nanotechnology,
yeah,
nanotechnology is my way to introduce wizardry into the world. So
yeah,
if it's kind of like the force, like
yeah.
if I can't think of a hard sign, I tried to, while it's not completely hard science, I try to incorporate as much realism as possible. So whenever there's something magical, it's nanobots, clouds of nanobots that can do it, and I lean on that heavily with the biohacker doing a lot of their stuff. Yeah, so nanobots are heavily present and can explain a lot of cool, fantastical stuff that can be done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just figuring with like Phoenix, Second Life, throw me in a vat, send me to these guys, and they stab my brain into a computer.
Yeah, yeah,
That's just what comes to mind with the name in that portfolio.
for
Um,
sure.
they
I
have
also I wanted to include a lot in the Phoenix Unlimited service that people that can't afford a prosthetic body. I had in mind these virtual afterworlds, like kind of virtual heavens, where you can go visit your grandparents and your parents. They don't have a physical body anymore, but they exist as psychominds in this digital landscape. And you can just log on and chat with them whenever you want.
go visit Grandpa in World of Warcraft. Yeah, yeah, I got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You ever read? Have you ever read any Ian M. Banks culture novels? Now that you mention it.
No, actually, I haven't.
Oh man, there's one that deals with that kind of subject very heavily, except it
Oh,
goes
cool.
much worse there because ends up being religions that force you to get a mind augment thing, so when you die, it uploads your mind to a virtual hell instead.
Oh, whoa. That I like that idea. That's a good plot point to introduce.
Uh,
I like it.
I can hit you up with the name of the book when I remember which one it is. It's real. All
Yeah,
this stuff
please
is
do.
really good.
Yeah,
Um,
I've always this past year I haven't been able to consume as much of the literature as I have previously, but of
yeah,
course this game is entirely inspired by stuff that I've seen. Like it started way back in 2001 or before then when I saw Gattaca and I was like, oh, Ghost in the Shell, oh my god! So I wanted to merge the world of Ghost in the Shell with bring in. There's very little, even though they are have you can obviously tell in Ghost in the Shell they're organic in many ways. They have blood and tissues over top of a metal skeleton. I wanted to introduce way more of the biological stuff, and it makes even more sense now that CRISPR is a tool that is being used. Like I started this before CRISPR, and now that that's a molecular tool that's being used, it's stuff's on the horizon. That's going to be pretty freaky.
yeah, absolutely. Looking
Yeah.
through the classes here, I can see some clear analogs to our classic
Oh yeah.
5e friends.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
but tell me about the ones that aren't. Tell me about the biohacker actually.
The biohacker is one of my favorites just because I'm a biologist, and so I love that one because it's close to home. But that one is a little bit, as far as roles are concerned, a little bit like the cleric, and you can take it into three different archetypes. So essentially, the biohacker is people that modify, create, destroy life. That's what the biohacker is. And the three archetypes there really heavily favor the type of biohacker you are. So there's the protean grinder, and they are obsessed with self improvement, making themselves the ultimate life form. Still rooted in biology. They're not, of course, they can include as much cybernetics as they want as well, but they use themselves as their own test subject, constantly tinkering with their own biology, modding their DNA. As they level up, they can turn into really, they become complete freaks in the best way as they try to become the ultimate life form. I'm thinking like a Nietzschean type ideal of the literal Uberman, not like the ethical Uberman, like he writes in the philosophy, but more like the Andromeda series Nietzscheans who want to become the ultimate life form, transcend their birth biology and to become something better. So they put a value on ability and they want to level that up as they level up. So they by level 20, they're just absolute, not necessarily monstrosities, but very different looking from what they were at level 1. Their appearance is going to be different, their abilities are going to be different, and they are melee damage dealers. So they're going to be similar to, they have a mechanic similar to a Paladin Smite, where they can use hack slots to do extra poison damage with a natural weapon of some type. Could be claws, could be quills, could be a barb at the end of a tail. They have some natural melee weapon that they can use poison through, and that levels up as they level up.
Thanks.
The next archetype for the biohacker is Dr. Frankenstein. So that's another classic idea where you, instead of manipulating yourself as the experiment, you're manipulating some sort of animal. So this is the Beastmaster type thing. This is, you have a pet. People that want a pet, they want to make it freaky and experiment on it. So instead of themselves becoming the ultimate life form, as they go from level 1 to 20, their pet becomes the ultimate life form, and they'll be doing the most damage and tanking through their beast pet. And it can be whatever kind of animal they want. It can even be a humanoid type animal, like a little homunculus, and then human form, and then they level up that human form as it goes up. And I just recently, I don't know if you've seen the Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix.
I haven't. I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, there's one of the first episodes called Sonny's Edge has actually, like, oh, this is like the Dr. Frankenstein. It's someone who has a genetically modified beast. They fight with through a telepathic link, a telepresence. The writing in that episode, in my opinion, wasn't the best, but for a 12-minute episode, all you need is a good twist to make it kind of enjoyable. So the writing was very weak, I thought, but a great twist and looked great, which
Let's
was enough for me for 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's the Blessing and Curse of Anthology series, right? Like some of them are gonna,
Yeah.
you might get a hidden gem that is absolutely great, but like a lot of it is gonna be, eh.
Yeah, I found that. But yeah, a good twist goes a long way for me if it's only 12 minutes and looks good.
Yeah.
And then the third The third archetype for the biohacker is a cytomancer. So that is the one that is most typically like the medic, the cleric type, where they use nanobots, and the hypo spray is their best friend. So they'll be using their hypo spray to inject enemies with all sorts of viruses and poisons, and they use a hypo spray to boost their allies' abilities with all sorts of drugs and personally chemical, pharmaceutical nanobot colonies that'll enhance. So they're buffers and damage dealers through their hacks in a similar way to a spellcaster would be. And it's pretty much all of it's either through the hypo spray or by throwing little grenades containing nanobots or poisons or things like that. So they need to have some piece of hardware as a basically like a spell focus if you want, but they're using most of their stuff through a hypo spray, and they are the best healers because they inject clouds of nanobots into allies that'll mend and suture wounds, that'll reoxygenate your blood, make you real tough. So yeah, that's what those guys are, and those are the three archetypes of biohacker.
Those are pretty cool. I want to play all of them.
Yeah, I know. That's what I tried when I made every single one. I was like, do I want to play this? So yeah, and if not, I was like, okay, gotta go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on a little bit to other universe stuff. Tell me about Daemons or Demons. Possibly.
Demons. Right. That's another thing that I think that distinguishes this game from some of the other cyberpunk ones is most cyberpunks have like deckers or hackers that are separate from the rest of the group, and it's cool, but it can create a nightmare where you have like separate the party syndrome, where you have the hacker doing his thing while the rest of the group is like twiddling their thumbs, or you have a side combat defending the hacker. Like there are ways to work around it, but very often the hacker is in his own domain versus the other characters. With this, I originally had it that a disease went over the whole planet and infected everyone with a computational retrovirus. But then I was like, after seeing how smartphones achieved complete market saturation in like 2-3 years, I'm like, I don't need that. Everyone's just going to do it. Like, there's going to be a few years where everyone doesn't want to inject themselves with a computer, but then they'll see how great it works for the people that do have that. And then, except for Amish and Hutterites, pretty much, and like maybe your grandparents, everyone's going to be on board with injecting a computer into their bloodstream it's native to their own consciousness. So that's what Daemons are, is this it's a group of nanobots that lay down a network of computational fibers throughout your entire nervous system. They have bits in your blood. They have nodes around your body as central processors, and it integrates with your brain. So it's a mind computer in your bloodstream, and you can conjure up, screens in front of your digital hallucinations. You have a mind's eye window, I call them, where you have screens that you can conjure up or swipe away whenever you want. So there's no need for a brain computer interface, and no need for lenses or a visor or anything like that, because it's part of your optic nerve. You can just you have a native operating system from shortly after you're born. Every single person does. And that's freaky, but it allows for mind hacking. And I want to be able to have the hacker class, the code hacker class, be able to do basically telepathy, like, psychic assaults, control people like puppets, even control other people's physiology, because the daemon also has physiological elements. So it can, give you a heart attack. A mind hacker can give you a heart attack. It can, do anything you can imagine to someone's mind or to someone's physiology. And that's what a mind hacker is. And it's one of the most serious crimes that can be done in this world, but it still happens a lot, because when you can do something, it happens.
Yeah, I desperately want to say that's implausible, but, we see with the rise of autonomous vehicles and stuff, hackers can, on insufficiently secured systems, hack into it, mash the brakes on the highway, turn off the brakes on the highway, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
And there's a few years ago, it was intentional, but researchers, they put in malware inside DNA that infected a computer. And when I saw that is amazing. So they had some code in the DNA, and ultimately DNA gets broken down into binary, or it can be broken down into binary of purines and pyrimidines. And then that code, when the DNA sequencer sequenced that DNA, it uploaded the virus into the DNA sequencer. So that interplay between biology and code, I love it, and I want to have as much of that as I could.
Yeah, it was basically an SQL injection, I believe. as far as I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
wasn't really a virus so much as it just like temporarily crashed it. But
right.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
still super cool.
yeah, proof of concept that I want to that is the fertile ground for fiction. Like, you
Yeah,
take what you can kind of be, and then like, okay, let's project into the future and just make it cool and take it to
yeah.
the max.
Sanitize your
Yeah,
inputs, all of them, even the things that you
yeah,
don't think could go wrong. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
And now with the rise of like Internet of Things technology and stuff, people don't do that. People don't learn.
yeah.
Ugh. Well, that's pretty cool. Is there any other game stuff you want me to touch on while we're here?
Let me think here. So, yeah, I talked about the Davids a little bit. There's the 9 megacorporations, but that's part of many. That's typical of cyberpunk genres. And
I see hacking
mind
works.
hacking. We
I see.
covered the mind hacking for
Yeah.
sure. One thing I guess is robots and drones. That's no surprise, but they are ubiquitous. So you look up at the sky, drones are everywhere. That's just part of the world. It also creates a good mechanic for players spending money because I want to have money being a huge part of this to capture the hyper capitalist, hyper competitive consumer society. So the characters can order stuff on the fly. Like in Dungeons and Dragons, even in third edition, you had to, while they did have a price guide, you can go and buy magic items in big cities and it's just there in the price list. With this, it's even more in your face. So you can get these premium weapons if you want. The moment you have the cash for it, you order from like whatever Amazon would be, or maybe Amazon itself in the future. And then if you're in a big city, a drone can have that weapon with the armor-piercing ammo delivered to you while you're in a firefight in a matter of minutes. If you got a warehouse nearby, that drone's in the middle of combat. You can order like, oh, I need some grenades. You got a drone coming in to give you some grenades. So things I wanted to have that hyper capitalist element.
If
And
you
right now I have crypto. Mm,
sorry, I was gonna say if you do that mid combat, do you have to roll to see like how much your delivery gets delayed, like by rounds?
yeah, for
Because
sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
that's fantastic. Just like
Yeah,
roll it, do 1d6. Just like, well, that'll be here in 6 rounds.
yeah, for
Uh.
sure. The other thing I wanted to incorporate is use of those drones for the hackers and the suit class. So that was another class you haven't talked about yet. But the suit
Right.
class is their main mechanic. They don't have spell casting so much or hacking even, but they have favors. So they have this network of people, and it's a global integrated society where everything is one phone call away from getting something done. So because there are these legions of drones flying above that are affiliated with police, military, corporations, like everything, they are able to call down drone strikes pretty easily as long as they have some open sky above them. The suit or the hacker can hack into the network and get the drone to start targeting the enemies. But call in a favor, get drone strikes to happen, or even at highest levels, I got the Aegis orbital satellite network of particle beams that take down nukes, but that can also target things as small as like a vehicle. So at highest levels, a suit can call in a favor, or a hacker can hack into the Aegis system and get this particle beam to just lance out of the sky and nuke whoever it is that they're fighting. So I tried to incorporate some of the like fireball type stuff in mechanical systems like that.
That's pretty cool. Like the bit in Akira where they call down the like giant satellite laser weapon
Exactly.
on Tetsuo. Yeah, I
Exactly.
hope
Yeah.
this works better. That didn't go so well for them,
No, it
but
didn't. Yeah.
it's the last thing you'd want. You call down that laser beam and it suddenly starts pointing towards you. Uh,
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Yeah.
that's what hackers are for, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that symbol you're using for currency here?
Well, that's actually the Satoshi. So that is, I think it's 1/10,000th or 1/100,000th of a Bitcoin. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, all right.
for sure. We'll see if cryptocurrency takes off, but it's at a crash right now. But at the same time, 3 years ago, it was less than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now I have it as Satoshi makes a comeback because there's a plague ravages the world in 2040s, takes out 5% of the global population because of massive panic. global economies collapse, and cryptocurrency ends up becoming more prominent again because of that. And it's just more hackery. Cryptocurrency is just a hackery cyberpunk type money. So I wanted to have that. That and the Satoshi symbol just looks cool. It's like a little smirky.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons why I went with that one as a currency. So that's the currency. And that global economic collapse, it not only does it cause increased confidence in cryptocurrency because all the governmental currencies collapse, also that's what fuels everyone gets rid of their antitrust laws, and that's what causes the feeding frenzy of corporations gobbling each other up, because all of a sudden everything takes a backseat to building the economy again. So every country gets rid of their antitrust laws, and then it's a feeding frenzy. Hungry hippos as the corporations gobble each other up and become mega entities. And by the time antitrust laws are reinstated, there's already, they're too big. They're too big to take down. So there's only 9 by the year 2090. And that's when the corporate wars are starting up again, partially because everyone's hungry for that mind uploading trade patent. And that is the biggest. There's a Cold War happening between all of the corporations trying to get a hold of that and reverse engineer it. And I set the game just a few years after the technology emerges, so it's very fresh and a strong focal point. So there can be lots of plot hooks revolving around trying to either come up with a new form of mind uploading or get access to that big trade secret.
This future is hell. I love it.
Yeah, that's right.
Very few things fill me with such dread as like, yeah, we just threw away our antitrust laws and called it a day. It's like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I have some friends I have some hacker friends who very much wish Bitcoin wasn't so associated with hackers, but
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have a favorite cryptocurrency, or they're not? They just don't like cryptocurrency at all.
They think it's mostly a scam.
Oh yeah,
but
yep, all money is.
That's a fair point. Yeah, bring back the gold standard.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm joking. Don't bring back the gold standard. That's not gonna help. So how'd you get into tabletop gaming?
I started when I was in grade 3, so a long time ago. It was, oh God, how many years ago is that? So many years ago, a long time ago. Yeah, I was in grade 3 when I started. My older brother didn't. He was in grade 7 at the time. And I think, the old red box D&D set, that's where I got started on. First edition, and then shortly after into second edition. But yeah, right after that, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. Me and my friends did it as a hobby nonstop. We made our own home brews and our own systems all the time together. And this game is almost an extension of one that we made together in high school. And I kept on kind of working with it and refining it and expanding on it. But yeah, grade 3 is when I started. How about you?
I think I first played D&D in about grade 6 in a dingy garage, like uncomfortably humid. Life.
That's exactly, yeah.
That only went on for a couple sessions. I think I got dragged into Shadowrun once, and I DM'd for our D&D club in high school. That went poorly. It didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Because I kind of had to take all comers, so I ended up with like 10 people at my table. I'm like,
oh wait, that's yeah. I run a D&D group at my the local high school as well. Yeah, one group of grade 7s and one group of grade 11s, but they're a hoot. I just don't plan for the great group of grade 7s. I just go in there because there's no point.
Yeah, I feel like that about the group that I run now.
Yeah.
Well, they say run. I'm like our secondary DM. Basically, I run the weird stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Our main DM Carter runs like the longer term campaigns generally. I'm just like, hey, I found the Man in Black tabletop game.
Oh yeah. I love the weird stuff too. Like that's why I'm doing this more of a biopunk as well, because in university, I was into molecular biology, specifically with parasites. I worked in a parasitology lab. Anything weird and gross, like I love it. I studied bed bugs, actually.
Oh yeah,
bed bug DNA.
Bed bugs are horrifying.
It's gross. Yeah, I know, and I don't know if you know about their life cycle and their reproduction, but it's even more horrifying than you can imagine. They have something called traumatic insemination. It's exactly how it sounds. Yeah.
I know some guys who spent over a year trying to get rid of bed bugs in their house, so I know more than I wish I did.
Yeah, and I loved another reason that I got into the biopunk stuff is I love Cronenberg movies. And this is way less horror than that, like way less. But there's something about the idea of technology and organics fusing together. I wanted to get away more from like a lot of cyberpunk, even the polished stuff that looks more modern. It's still built on the Gibson '80s vision of like the big metal arm, the archetypal big metal arm, and that's awesome. And I think there definitely will be more revolutions in that field. I would just really want to focus on the genetic modification as well as cybernetics coming together. Like they're both coming together, towards each other. It's not going to be all robots. It's going to be both are going to be advancing at the same time.
Yeah, it turns out cybernetics is a lot more problematic than we thought.
Yeah, our body doesn't like it.
No, it's
Yeah.
not super keen on it, which is
Yeah.
because it's basically an open wound where you have that connection, right?
Mhm. Right.
Are you
Yeah.
familiar with biopunk blogger Left Anonym at all?
No,
You should look her up. She's done some really
I
neat
will.
stuff with implants, rather.
Oh,
She's
nice.
got a thing implanted in her leg that constantly vibrates to tell her which way is north and stuff.
Oh,
Unless
that's cool.
unless she had to remove that one, I don't remember. But
Yeah.
I know she tried to do a transdermal temperature sensor, so it had a little coil sticking out of wherever it was, and that
Yeah.
went very badly for her because that's
Oh,
an
yeah.
open wound, so it's constantly
Yeah,
that
for sure. Those. Yeah.
that one I know they had
Nanobots.
to
Nanobots will
nanobots.
solve that.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
just nanobots. Also LED screens under the skin was another one that they did. That one was cool. So if it's bright enough, it'll actually show through the skin. So
Oh,
you like
nice. That's
look down
cool.
at your wrist,
Yeah.
you have a glowing thing telling you what time it is.
Totally. That's classic. That's from the Cyberpunk 2020. I can't remember the name of the splat book, but yeah, that's I remember that image of the.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
Mhm.
They're pretty cool. Check them out. I can send you a link later. Um,
Cool.
yeah. I think that about wraps up my questions.
Cool.
Anything
Oh, yeah, I guess
else?
that one other thing I wanted to mention about the daemons is they also have a medicinal component. So one of the I wanted to have more reason for everyone to get it beyond just the information processing, which is probably a strong enough reason anyway for most people. But I wanted to have, if you don't have a demon inside of you or daemon, that's like a GIF GIF thing. if if you don't have one of those, then you're lacking this huge, strong doctor inside your body that tells you when you're sick, can diagnose you with problems, can heal your tissues more rapidly. And I wanted that fluff to explain the crunch of fifth edition healing mechanics. Because personally, I have a problem with how everyone can just heal back to full in the 9-hour rest in D&D. Like I know hit points aren't just injuries. There's also luck and heroics and other stuff embedded in the hit point mechanic. But something about being a death's door and then 9 hours later you're like fresh and ready to go in every single way possible just rubbed me a little the wrong way in fifth edition. So I have built in the daemons or the explanation for how you can heal over that 9-hour period. They're like you actually have everyone has a healing factor of some type, which explains the 9-hour 100% recovery.
Yeah. That you mentioned that Amish and Hutterites and so on don't have them. Do
Ooh.
you have options for playing somebody without?
I do. Yeah, so they get the huge advantage of being immune to mind hacking of any type. They're just straight up immune to mind hacking. But I have a lot of the cybernetic upgrades that are tied to having a demon. So if you don't have one, then you cannot get those upgrades, and you also miss out on that sweet healing factor. So you have to heal at a very slow rate, or with drugs. People can still inject you with a drug called nanodoc and things like that. But you don't restore to full hit points on a rest. You heal 1 hit point a day, just like in the old school days, if you don't have a demon. So I wanted to have the possibility for someone to play that for role playing reasons, and it does offer a huge benefit because you're 100% resistant to mind hacking. But there's also strong negatives. You don't get access to a lot of cybernetic upgrades. You don't heal every day, and you lack the abilities that you get for having a smartphone in your brain, like in text messaging, telepathy, all that other stuff.
Right. Also, it's occurring to me now that I guess the daemons are how you control the cybernetic limbs too, eh? Like
That's right.
that's
Yeah,
the BMI there.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. That didn't click until just now.
Yeah.
Ah, that's
And that's also the concentration mechanic is your it's still the same, but now that's processing power. You're using your processing power to concentrate on something. So hackers, and if you upgrade your demon or daemon, you can get it concentrate on additional effects, which isn't. I know that's a little more crunch than in 5th edition because they want to simplify it to you can concentrate on one effect, and that's it. There is that base mechanic for everyone's daemon can run one program at one time, but hackers and daemon upgrades can allow you to run 2 or 3 or even 4 if you like straight go all out. You can concentrate on 4 different programs at once.
Well, that's the classic Magic the Gathering design philosophy, right? You make your rules, and then you have things that break them in specific ways, and the players have to judge if that's worth it.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I know they had a word for it. It's like incomparables or something like that. Things that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Mark Rosewater has had an article about that years and years ago, but.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's a little off topic. Yeah, how compatible is this with base 5e content? I guess would be my last question. Really, like, can I throw a beholder at them as some sort of horrible genetic experiment and call it a day?
Yep. Yeah, I have a 2-page little breakdown of having a fantasy, basically the Shadowrun setting, like how to adapt the 5th edition fantasy world, and it's seamless because there's almost no difference whatsoever, other than the fact that in Gene Funk everybody starts out more powerful, because I wanted to capture that genetically engineered people are better. Like they actually are. It's not an ambiguous question. If you are a genetically engineered miner, you're just stronger and tougher than the average person. So I had to include mechanics in the base unmodified human that increase them a little bit. It's essentially similar to having 2 extra character levels, pretty much. So that's about the power level. It doesn't scale perfectly as you level up, because like that's just the nature of level progression. But for the most part, at level 1, everyone is the power level of level 3. And then after that, it's on par all the way. So, like a level 15 Gene Funk character would be very similar to a level 17 D&D character. And so that little boost that's exactly how I have mechanics that give little bonuses if you want to play an orc or an elf or any one of the fantasy races. If you want to do an urban arcana campaign, there's rules for that. It's a different world, but it's like 2 pages that explain all those conversions.
Yeah, or even freakier transgenics.
Exactly.
Because these are all very very human baseline. Like, they may look a little weird, but nothing has tusks. Nobody's running around as a giant spider.
That's right.
Tragically.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully for some people, I'm sure, but.
Although you can climb walls and spin webs, but you don't necessarily look that different.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps up pretty much all of my questions. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, it was great talking to you too. Good meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. Always nice to talk to a fellow Canadian.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I think I cut you off there.
Oh no, that was it. I was just thanking you for making the time to meet with me, and I enjoy talking about my game. I've been thinking about it a lot, so it's fun.
Yeah,
and it's fun, having a common language of geekdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck to you on the campaign that starts in a couple days. 30th?
April 30th. Yeah, April 30th.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do.
Well, yeah, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
For all of our viewers, have a good day.
See ya.